What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we are going to talk about some fun facts to know about Arizona because everyone likes fun facts and just things you didn't even know, right? A lot of this comes from a talk radio series that I was listening to on local radio. It's called KTAR. They do talk radio. If you're ever in Arizona, tune in to KTAR. But they were talking about the Hoover Dam and the Central Arizona Project, and I was finding out things during the course of that interview that were quite interesting, such as the fact how much of the water in a severe drought would go to California and how much of it would go to Arizona, and just some of the history between everything that involved Carl Hayden and Barry Goldwater, who were some of the original founding fathers of the government in the Arizona system that progressed us. But it led to this video, and basically some of the things to know, because I did mention the Hoover Dam. It does power, or it provides power to 3 different states, Nevada, Arizona, and California. Now, as far as the CAP goes, basically Tucson, Phoenix would probably not exist, or if it did exist, it wouldn't be the size that it is today without the Central Arizona Project. For those of you who do not know about the CAP, the Central Arizona Project is basically what channels water from the Colorado River down here to Phoenix in canals. And I believe it is the second largest aquifer or man-made aquifer in the United States. So it's quite the project, and it's here in Arizona, right? But moving on along past the Hoover Dam and the CAP, let's talk about some really interesting facts that you guys might find to be pretty cool. So Arizona has more Native American land than any other state in all of America. So there's nearly 1/4 of the state is a reservation. Now, by the way, Arizona is also I believe it's the 6th largest state in area. 6 states actually fit into Arizona. 6 states that are up in New England, Massachusetts, all those states in New England, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont would fit. Oh, plus Pennsylvania would fit inside the size of Arizona. That's how big it is. So when you hear that 1/4 of Arizona, nearly 1/4 of Arizona is Native American reservation, it might not be so shocking to you, right? Now, there's a place in Arizona at our borders called the Four Corners. It's a spot in the United States where a person can stand in 4 states at the same time. That includes Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. If you ever wanted to go to all 4 states really quickly, just go to Four Corners and, stand like a bear on all 4s, and you could be in all 4 states. Okay? That's the Four Corners. So that's kind of an interesting fact for those of you who are into that kind of stuff, right? Just in case you were wondering, if you moved to Arizona, what would you be called? You'd be called an Arizonan. So if you could also be called a Zoni. That's what they also call us. Arizona leads the nation in copper production. So if you're wondering why the state capital has a copper roof that could create why aren't more pennies made out of it? Because of our copper roof. I mean, how many pennies could be created out of that copper roof at our state capital in downtown Phoenix, right? Just in case you were wondering, our state tree is a Palo Verde, okay? What is a Palo Verde? It's a green tree that blooms. It's, you'll see them. You'll get to know it. It's the green tree. It's that tree. The other tree is the mesquite or the ironwood. But what Palo Verde translates to in Spanish is green stick. Verde is green, and alto or palo is tree. So green tree, green stick. If you ever heard of Palo Alto, that means tall stick. Okay? That's Palo Alto in California, right? But Arizona has more mountains than Switzerland and more golf courses than Scotland. That's kind of cool to hear, right? I mean, Arizona has that many golf courses and more mountains than even Switzerland. I mean, we've got a lot of mountains here. So Arizona is the 15th most populous state out of the 50 with 6.7 million people. We also have a pretty cool thing that you might want to check out called Meteor Crater. So it's the best preserved meteor crater in the world. It's in Winslow, Arizona. If you go east away from Flagstaff, you'll end up at Meteor Crater. It's where a giant meteor hit the earth, and it's up here in Arizona. And another cool place that you might find interesting is the Petrified Forest, which is just beyond Meteor Crater. So that whole area north of Flagstaff, just all of North Arizona, has some really cool places. That's where Meteor Crater is. You've got even the volcano up there. I think it's called Sunset Crater. You have Humphreys Peak, also known as San Francisco Peak, because they say you could see San Francisco, the city, the lights of San Francisco from the peak. That's how I got the name San Francisco Peak, but it's called Humphreys Peak. You also have Grand Canyon, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. You have the Petrified Forest, as I just mentioned. You have Canyon de Chelly. You have the Navajo Nation, which is those Indian, Native American relics up there. So there's a lot to see and do in northern Arizona, but it's it's not populated. Out there you also have Lake Powell, which is a very scenic, bizarre lake. It's bizarre and scenic at the same time, okay? So on to some more cool stuff. We have the oldest rodeo here, and that's held every year in Prescott. So the world's oldest rodeo is in Prescott. The world's oldest continuous rodeo is in Payson. It's not in Texas. So if you want the real cowboy stuff, it's here in Arizona, and I'll prove it to you right here, right now. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid, they're all spent time down here. You ever seen the movie Tombstone? Tombstone, Arizona, okay? That's where the OK Corral is. So if you want to get a piece of some real Wild West, it's down here in Arizona, down in the Tombstone area, Tombstone, Arizona. And that's where the famous shootout of the OK Corral was. You know who that was, Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp. Phoenix started, let's see, what else do we have? So Arizona's name originated from the Spanish name Arizonac, which in turn derived from the Odom. So the Odom are the Tohono O'odham, named Alisonic, meaning small spring. So that's what Arizona means, small spring, basically. Lake Mead and Lake Powell are 2 of the largest man-made lakes in the U.S., and both are located in Arizona. Lake Powell, Lake Mead. Lake Mead is the largest reservoir. Reservoirs are man-made, by the way. Arizona's highest point is Humphreys Peak. We talked about that, 12,633 feet. That's pretty high, guys. If you don't think that 12,000 feet elevation is high, there's not many places in the United States that have a mountain that goes that high. So we talked about that. Let's see. The hottest temperature ever recorded in Arizona. So you'll hear people say things like, oh, Arizona gets so hot. But the hottest that it's ever been on record is 128 degrees. And that was in Lake Havasu City, not here in Phoenix. That was in June 29th, 1994. So even though we're in global warming, supposedly, 1994, we had the hottest ever temperature recorded in Lake Havasu City. So for those of you who want to move to Lake Havasu City, that's the place. It's hotter than Phoenix in Lake Havasu City. Now, the coldest temperature in Arizona was negative 40 degrees, and that was recorded at Howley Lake, January 7th, 1971. It was negative 40 degrees. Pretty interesting. So another place that's pretty cool that you might not know about, Four Peaks, is known as, for producing some of the highest quality gemstones, amethyst. So the Four Peaks area, if you go just west of Phoenix or east of Phoenix, you'll come to the Four Peaks, and you'll know them because they're Four Peaks. That's why they get their name. But that's where some of the most, some of the top quality amethysts in the world come from there. Okay. Another thing that, while we're on the subject of minerals and gemstones and gold, the Lost Dutchman gold mine. So there's a Superstition Mountains, and inside there, they say that that's where this Dutchman, buried his gold. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about the Lost Dutchman. That's up in the Superstition Mountains, but no one has found it, so they cannot confirm or deny that they're even in the Superstition Mountains. So that's another interesting thing. Before the United States flag flew over land, the area that would become Arizona, the Castellan and Burgundian flags of Spain, the Mexican flag, the Confederate flag, were all flown over Arizona. So several Spanish flags had actually flown over Arizona. Arizona is very heavily influenced by Spain. If you don't know what the Castilian flag looks like, so it's the Castile district of Spain. For those of you who've been to Spain and you're like, well, where's Castile? What's Castilian? It's the Castile district in Spain, which is, because I've been to Spain and I've been to Barcelona, and I know that's Catalan, but the Castilian is the inland part of Spain, which is funny because certain parts of Spain actually do look like Arizona. So I could see why they would consider Arizona to be very much like Castilian. The other one, I don't know about that one, but those are just some fun facts. I got a couple more for you. There are 22 national parks and monuments in Arizona. The only other state that has more is California. There are more than 100 wineries and 22 varietals of wine produced in Arizona. So Arizona is becoming a wine country, a wine state. We're becoming something that has to do with wine. It was just a matter of time. The Arizona Sonoran Desert is the only place on Earth where the saguaro cactus grows. So that's kind of cool, right? Arizona Trail is 800 miles long and dedicated to hiking, mountain biking, horseback riding. For those of you who want to adventure, check out the Arizona Trail. Two of the top-rated waterfalls in the United States are located in Arizona. You have Havasupai Falls and Grand Falls, right? So some of the top waterfalls right there in the Grand Canyon area. The Grand Canyon National Park, like I said, is one of the 7 wonders of the world. And we also have in Arizona some natural hot springs, so that's pretty cool. There's also an area near Lake Pleasant called Castle Hot Springs that they're renovating and rebuilding. You might want to check out Castle Hot Springs, to those of you who stayed on the video long enough for this little gem. Castle Hot Springs, way back when, is where JFK stayed. They've rumored to say that JFK stayed there with Marilyn Monroe. And this place it was one of the Apache strongholds. So if you don't know who the Apaches are, you might have heard of Cochise, Geronimo. They were here in Arizona, and they had what they call Apache strongholds. Okay, so the Apaches were a very strong Native American tribe. You've heard of Cochise and Geronimo. These were some warriors, man. These Apaches were some of the most feared Native American warriors you would ever come across if you were a part of the cavalry, okay? Because they were ruthless. I believe they were they were some of the first ones who would do scalping. Scalping is where they cut the hair off. You know, don't shoot the messenger, look it up. You know, but it doesn't mean that they were savages, because, I mean, we know in war history, I mean, we've seen raping and pillaging going on all throughout society. War is not pretty, and, you know, things like that do happen, unfortunately. Disgusting things happen in war, but it wasn't just unique to the Native Americans who did things that were considered a bit extreme, right? So when you started exploring the Apaches, they were fighting for their land that was being taken from them, you know, by the Americans, who were fulfilling the manifest destiny, which was that America would extend from sea to shining sea. After Lewis and Clark had, you know, ventured across, they wanted to connect it from sea to shining sea, Atlantic to Pacific, and then they would build the railroad, which was built here, and also Arizona played a big part in that. So any other things that you guys would like to know about Arizona, or that I missed, that you would like to mention in the comments, please do mention it in the comments. Like I said, you've got plenty of history here. We've got the world's largest collection of optical and radio telescopes at Kitt Peak National Observatory for stargazers. We've got Hoover Dam, which was built in 1935. We've got Sedona. We've got so much to see and do here. We've got Organ Pipe National Park down in the south, right on the border with Mexico. So just tons of cool stuff. We've got rattlesnakes, our wildlife, black bears here, desert bighorn sheep, mountain lions, cotamundi, which is like a raccoon kind of tail striped like lemur. A pig called a javelina. I can go into more details about animals in Arizona, because some of these people won't watch this video all the way through, but we have Gila monster, desert tortoises, rattlesnakes, Sonoran tiger, salamander, you know, all types of different stuff for the wildlife. And we can go into more detail on that in another video. And we'll see you guys next time.